get started just because we don't want to run over too long. I don't know what run over means exactly, but we do want to take an opportunity. We've all been shut up for a year, and so when fundraisers get together, we like to talk a lot. There are some new faces in the room, so we want to be sure we each know who everyone is. And first of all, I want to thank Chase Roach for hosting us today. Our meetings will typically be at the United Way building, but because of the change in schedule with spring break, their building was not available, and so Chase was gracious to host us today. So also Casey Long with United Way is the president. Steve Smart with Another Chance House is the president-elect, and you see that neither of them are here, so you get to see me today. I'm Keith Brown. I am immediate past president and tried every way for Haley to find somebody else to do this, and she kept finding reasons that I should do it. So anyway, what I would like to do in the beginning, I'm going to pass this around. If everyone will put their name and organization and email, just so we are sure we've got your information. Also, welcome to you Zoomers. I think we've got 11 or 12 folks on Zoom, so that's awesome. There's 19. So I'm pretty sure this might be the largest event we've had outside of NPD in maybe ever. So thank all of you for being here. Anyway, I'm going to pass this around. If you Zoomers will put in the chat your name and organization and email, that will be awesome. And then we'll just go around the room. As I said, my name is Keith Brown. I have been in fundraising for a long time and just sort of came up in it organically, I guess. Am now a major gift officer at WT and have been there a little over a year. Have been involved with AFP, was involved with National Society of Fundraising Executives before it even became AFP. So I'm old. So glad y'all are here. Chase, you can go next.
I'm Chase Roach. I am Senior Development Director for the Golden Spread Council right here in this building. And I've been here 11 years. Before that, I did other things, other places. And yeah, love my job, except last year. So anyway, yeah.
I'm Marianne Houston. I'm kind of retired. I worked out at the Tri-State Exposition for 16 years, but I've been in fundraising for a long time. Been a member of AFP for 18 years, I guess. So I'm doing some consulting on grant mentoring and board. So that's what I'm doing now.
I'm Gurley. I'm with the Eastridge Mission Center, and we became a nonprofit in 2018. So I'm fairly new to the nonprofit and fundraising world. So anyway, thanks for hosting and having us.
My name is Chandra Perkins. I run Storybridge here in town. I joined AFP maybe 2 months before everything shut down, or 3 months, because I got the scholarship for the Icon Conference in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Chamberlain Conference, yes. Of course, that was virtual too. So anyway, I'm excited to see people in person again, and I have tons to learn. So happy to have y'all.
I'm Hannah Taylor, Marketing and Communications Director at United Way. I've been with them for about going on 6 years, and I'm here kind of not for Casey, but she's like, you need to go to that. I said, okay, I'll go.
I'm Barbara Palmer. I work at WT with a lot of people in this room. I've been at WT for 11 years. I've been in nonprofit my whole career. And I was kind of hit or miss with AFP, but Haley holds me accountable. Are you going? Are you going? Are you going? It's like, yes, I'm going. So, anyway.
Molly Cavanis, Major Gifts Officer at WT as well. And yeah, same. Haley's main thing.
That's how this I think half the people in this room would be like, yep.
I'm Molly, also with an IE, Molly Swafford with Another Chance House. I'm the development director. I'm on my 3rd year there. Sort of fell into fundraising through a long circuitous route, but it hits a lot of my buttons, and I'm excited to be able to help the guys that are at Another Chance House. And I have learned a tremendous amount from the people in this room and AFP. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany Lee. I'm the assistant director at the WT Alumni Association. And like everyone else, Haley and Keith, actually Keith picked me up this morning, so this is like curbside service. Really great to be here.
But he didn't pick the rest of us.
No, yeah, since it was my first
She's a
time.
newbie.
Yeah, so I've just been in my role for only 2 months, so I'm still learning a lot and I'm excited to be here this morning. So, nice to meet you all.
I'm Haley. I'm with WT and also.
She's the AFP czar.
Just for this year. Someone else is going to do it. But I also work at WT. I'm the senior director for annual giving. And thank you all for being here. Kim can draw a crowd.
Yes. I was gonna say, I'm Kim May, totally not to be here.
Well, we'll hear a lot more about Kim. So
Okay. I'm Shana Jordan. I am with Emerald Habitat for Humanity. I've been with them for 3 years. It's kind of the start of my professional fundraising. I've always done it as volunteer, and so it's kind of fun to get into the paid part of it. So actually get to put your passion where you.
I'm Sitwell Alexander. I'm also with Emerald Habitat. I'm the, I guess, community relations, but I do the marketing stuff. So Shannon invited me.
My name is Kyra Jeffco. I'm with Harrington Cancer and Health Foundation. I do marketing for them. I'm pretty new. I started in August, have a background in advertising in the community. I also do database management for the foundation, which is nice because I get to have the perspective of seeing the donor side. So I'm happy to be a part.
My name is Monica Silva. I'm actually with Nobox Creative. I started late last year, so I'm still learning all of the marketing and stuff for nonprofits and things like that.
I made her come.
And I'm also Haley. We have a lot of doubles here. I'm Haley Karichuk. I'm with the Amarillo Symphony. I'm the development director. I've been there about a year and a half. I'm trained as a violinist, but I now work both. I play in the symphony and work now on the administrative side of that, of the arts.
That's cool.
I'm Teresa Hellman. I'm the executive director of Junior Achievement. I've been with AFP for 14 years, and thanks to Catherine, she made me come. And I'm just happy to be here. I've learned so much from this group, and I'm glad to see new faces and new people coming in. Love my old friends, not old, but long time friends. Yeah, seasoned friends.
I'll go with gold.
I'm Peyton Bivens, and I'm with the Emerald College Foundation.
I'm going to stand up because I can't see y'all. So, and I'm Catherine Wiegand. I'm president of the Bivens Foundation. I think this is my 29th year to be a member of AFP. And I'm so excited to see all of y'all because I can't tell you how much it has helped my career and helped me make all these wonderful friends. So I'm so glad y'all are here, and I want to meet all of y'all that I don't know yet. But I do want to tell you, we have a grant cycle that opens April 1st for Mary Bivens Foundation. Closes the end of May. So if you're interested, Jessica Tudyk, just remember Jessica because Tudyk is hard. And call Jessica at the foundation. If you haven't met her, just go have coffee, and she will walk you through the whole process. So we'd love to have you apply for this grant cycle.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank all of you. Our meetings are open, and we encourage you to come always. They typically are the third Thursday of each month. So March is an odd month because of spring break. But our next meeting will be on April the 15th. That used to be tax day, but COVID seems to have changed everything. When tax day gets changed, it's a major deal. Anyway, April 15th, our next program is Lindsay Reynolds, who is with Atterbury Grain. She does consulting work in strategic planning, and so she will be our program in April, and that meeting will be at United Way on April the 15th at 8:30. So we encourage you to attend that, and would love to have you join our membership if you're not a member currently. Most of you are, but we would encourage you to join if you're not. Coming up is the International Fundraising Convention, the end of June, I believe. I know that we refer to that as icon in the AFP world. And that information, the registration is open on the AFP website, and there is a virtual option if you're not able. I think it's in Minneapolis, but there's also a virtual option as well if you're
It's all
unable.
virtual.
They decided.
It's all virtual. Okay, so it's all virtual. So it's in Minneapolis, but you can stay here in Amarillo and go to Minneapolis. So I have not had an opportunity to attend Icon, but those who have say it's a phenomenal opportunity. So this might be a way to do that without having a travel budget involved. So does anybody have any other announcements about your organizations? I forgot to tell you, Catherine has been around long enough that she just knows to tell about her organization, but any events or grant cycles or anything that anybody wants to share with the group? All right, well, I will turn it over to to Haley. Haley is responsible for programs this year and has done a great job setting those up. And so she'll introduce our program.
Okay, I'm going to read off of my phone from Kim. So Kim May, she is the president of Nobox Creative. I've had the privilege to work with her on a couple of projects, and I'm always just so impressed with her and all of her knowledge. She is an active member in the community. She has served on the board of directors for Junior Achievement, the Discovery Center, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which I know is dear to her heart from her son, the Food Bank. She does nonprofit events and marketing and all the things. She just kind of knows a little bit about everything. But when I was telling my kids this morning that I was coming here and told them who was speaking, they were like, who? I was like, y'all know Kim? They're like, who's Kim? It's Tug's mom. She has a golden retriever that walks down our street named Tug. And so that's how my kids know her as Tug's mom. So please welcome Kim May.
Last February, right before the pandemic. So he has not been left alone. And he was pretty disappointed this morning when he was he's used to coming to work with me. I brought a little bit of with he said goodbye. So I brought a few of the golden retriever hairs with me. But that's the funny thing about a pandemic is the highlight of his day is going to Haley's house to play with her dog. So, well, last February, I spoke about branding for nonprofits. Which is crazy. I was thinking about it this morning. I used the same slide deck. And we didn't know what we didn't know was about to happen. Were any of you in that one? So a couple of you were. So some of this will be a little bit of a refresher, but I do want to talk about how do we go from here? What happens to fundraising? So we'll hit a little bit of that, but this is a lot of just the branding that Hannah and Ty are going to know really well. But so much of that is good for nonprofits. Branding, what is it? It helps you stand out. And I don't have my clicker, so this will get a little tricky. I may just go fast. It increases trust and loyalty. So when somebody is looking at your brand, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of why it matters. These are the things why it matters. And it increases your engagement and visibility. Good branding, what does it even mean? And the very first thing that I just want to I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to look down. I'll go fast. No, oh, yeah, well, I'm okay. So what is branding? What does it mean when I come up here and say branding? And I'll talk a little bit about some of the advertising aspects and the visual aspects of branding. But more than that, I really want us to talk about and think about it's what your brand is, what people think of when they see your icon, when they hear your name. What's the first thing that comes to their mind? It's your positioning, your impact, your purpose, your story. Is it likable? Does it portray have you done a good job telling your story? Have you done a good job with your ethics, with your integrity, that when people see your name, when they see WT, what are they thinking of? What are all of the stories that you've told? So when it comes down to it, the very first step of branding is what story are you telling? Are you telling it properly? And are you getting the word
it out. So those are all the things. Last, it's a memorable logo. I say this all the time, and I always, it's hard for me to say it because I'm in the business and we love to do logos, but it's at the point now where they can either look at you and think these guys know what they're doing, they're on the edge of something great, or they look outdated. So like, it's, what do you want to do? It's not about your logo's ugly. Does your logo just need a refresh? Do you need some new colors? Do you need all that? How do you look? Are you outdated? And that goes along with your messaging. We'll go a little bit more into it, but and attractive and consistent colors like that. I forget all of, and are you using good photography? You know, all of that is part of your brand and your image. But number one is your purpose, your, you know, who you are, what is your impact, what do you do? If you don't have that right, branding isn't going to work for you at all. So messaging and image first, that's really what I want to talk about. And I think more than anything, we are all coming out of COVID. This is the first time I've got to see a group since last February when I spoke, and it's so good to see you. I had COVID in October, very mild case, have some really crazy things happening afterwards. But so I feel comfortable being in the room with you. Love that there's no masks. And I'm really thankful that yesterday Amarillo only had two new cases. So it feels good. Like we're in a place, and there's almost like this spring break, there was an electricity about spring break. Like we made it through. We didn't know it was going to be a year. We didn't know we'd make it. And now we're coming back to our offices. We're sitting at our desks, and as fundraisers, we're saying, what now? We know people are not giving. I've seen it in politics. It is not that people are not giving. It's that we are going to have to come up with a different way to figure out how to get people to give. And number one, like this year, 2021, we're already so far into the year. How can we be approaching the 4th month of this year already? But this is a good time to sit down and say, what are we going to do differently? So one of the things I recommend is gathering input. Let's do a survey. Let's sit down with our volunteers. Let's sit down with our donors. Let's sit down with our board, and let's talk about what is our impact. And really, your impact is what difference do you make? If you went away today, who would it matter to, and why would it matter? Like if you had to close because of lack of funding, who would it impact? Who would it affect? Those are the things. And we've kind of done it. You've all done, you know, we hear mission statement, but sorry if it offends anybody, but mission statement, like how old is that word? Yeah. You know, what is your impact? If you close today, who would be affected? Why would it matter to them that you close? That is your mission. So kind of breaking away, you know, the board loves to go, we're going to do a mission statement. And I always, you know, I'm a founding member of a board. I get it. I understand fundraising, but when you, I don't know, and that some of you are not on the board. So the board comes back and they're like, all right, head fundraiser, I gave you a mission statement. Sign right here, and you like it, pass it on, and we will all go and do our thing. So you have a rough job because you're not on the board and they're your boss. So how you come back to the office and say, okay, where do we go? That's going to be an interesting way, but I recommend as a fundraiser, because it affects you, like having a conversation and saying, can we just talk about where we go post-COVID? Where do we go from here? What does it look like? And one of the things you can even start your conversation with, if you are going to your ED or your board president, is to say, look, can we sit down and just talk about how we survived COVID, the things that we implemented to survive, and can we just take a look at, are any of those temporary measures usable moving forward? Because what we know and what I've talked about with clients from medical backgrounds to restaurants to nonprofits is that we have inadvertently changed the way consumers will react from here on out. We will be different. Thankfully with Amarillo, we're not so different, because here's a great group of people in a tiny room sitting close to each other with no mask. So thankfully we are still wanting that interaction, but we've changed the way people will shop. We've changed the way people will give, and we will change the way that will use online services from here on out. So we have a different job to do. your core communication, your core constituents, who are they? I might need some water. If somebody can grab me water at some point, I think I'm gonna decide I want to drink. But who are the people you serve? Who are the people who give? Who are the people who volunteer? Those are your constituents. Those three people: the serving, the giving, the volunteers. Your staff is, for the most part, you count them as number 4. I didn't put them in here, but they're important too. So those are all your constituents. In the advertising world, I would call those personas. So you have 3 groups plus your staff that you talk to and you create messaging for. So when you're thank you, Chase. When you're branding a message for each one of these groups. And the message that goes for the people you serve will not be the message that goes to your volunteers, will not be the message that goes to your staff. So you're coming up with, if you're sitting down, this first slide, which Haley is going to get to those of you who are in person, but this first slide is really how you can come up with a game plan to sit down with your board, sit down with your ED and talk about where are we going from here? What are we doing? But this is a good time. I just would recommend, and I love looking at Catherine with your years of experience, but especially on serving on boards. I don't think you can expect to function and fundraise having used any of your old mission statements, any of your old stuff, because the world just changed. So yay for you for being here. Yay for you. We didn't know really what, but as I sat down and started to just think about what we would talk about and what we'd do, before I could even get into colors and graphic design or whatever else we have in this slide deck, it's like the most important thing is everything changed in a way that we really, it's a fundamental to our core kind of change. And I love the good things that we've learned. I love that we're all now we're lonely. We're so excited to see people, and that will help you. But fundamentally, we have to look at how did the people that we serve, how have they changed this year? Their needs will be different. So your storytelling and your messaging will change, and it should. I recommend that. So as you're looking at who are your constituents, I already said it, but what impact do our constituents need us to have moving forward? What do they need now that they didn't need before? What's the different things? How do we meet their post-COVID needs? And what does that look like? Do the people we serve have immediate needs? Do they need us to feed, clothe? If you're a food bank, you're going to be feeding people differently. But maybe they need us to think about future needs. So is your job long-term? How does junior achievement do this moving forward in the schools with masks? I think you guys have already started to come back, but there's going to be future needs. And then are you going to be needed to provide long-term solutions some way? So are you going to be looking differently at these, just at our, we look at WT for an example, it's changed so much. What will happen with dorms? What will happen with live classes? I know you guys are having those discussions and you have enough staff, but that's a good example of how, the behind the scenes, those talks have been going on for a year. And you guys are, you seriously understand the impact, and how do you create a good education when things are different and they're online? Like, how do you have a fundraiser that you expect people to pay for if it's going to be online? How do you do that? And, those are conversations that are good. So this is great board time. And then I would just say, use data to make decisions. So, come to your board with a bunch of things. Here are the people that we served. Here's how we serve differently. Just come ready. And I think the biggest thing you're going to have is just being brave, leading the way. And I've learned it. Sorry if anybody's watching online that is on a board, but I think you have to really decide how, we have to accept how difficult it will be as you maneuver that way, and just say, okay, start with the executive director, get them on board. But our whole goal, my goal, is that sometimes you have to get your clients to think it was their idea. So that's your job. How do you do that? Like, what I always tell my staff, and I'm sure they hate me sometimes, but I'm like, you can't say, I want you to do this. Like, that will never work. Like, those words can never come out of your mouth or be written on email, because it makes people know. It's like, what do you think about this? It's just, I don't like it when people tell me what I have to do. And as consumers, we all are consumers in some way. Your board is your consumer. All of this, as consumers, We don't want to be told to do something. We don't want to be told to buy something. We don't want to be sold something. What we want are people to give us information and let us make our own intelligent decisions from that. So your job is to go with information and let them, you may start something. I've learned the hard way that my first idea is not always the best idea. The smartest thing we can do is talk to people that are smarter than us and say, what do you think about this? Here's where I'm going. Here's what I was inspired today at a talk, and here's what I'm thinking. What should we add? Because the best ideas will be when we collaborate together and a lot of smart people start putting things in. So don't come thinking I've got my plan, I want to present it, but I want to come get ideas, let's collaborate, and let's get something that's even better. And I say when our staff comes with a campaign and it's all ready and I start making changes, I'm like, you didn't do it wrong, I'm just making it better. And so it's kind of like all of those people who are adding are not fixing something that you didn't have right, they're just making it better. And I like it when more people come in and more people start making things better. It matters to me, and I think we come up with good things. So messaging is going to be big. But when we look at images and we look at things that are bothering us, I'm going to go ahead and click all the way through so I don't have to look down. But things that you may have been doing wrong. So messaging is first. I could go on and on and on about post-COVID. I want you to take that first slide and really take some time to do it. I hope every nonprofit will sit down and they will say, what did we do well? What blew up in our face? How do we serve our people? And what impact will we make? And from that, you create your messaging and your content. But if you're looking at bigger pictures, back to your identity. So we've got your logo, then we got your Facebook, you might have Instagram, you got your website. I hope to God you have all had a year to fix your websites, get them up and running. You know, that is really, really important. But when you look at all of that, if you're coming in, you're a fundraiser, you want to send somebody to your website, you're going to send them an email, you know they're watching Facebook. Is your design consistent? Did somebody put a different color on the website because that web designer thought they were really great? What happens in the world of I know how to use Photoshop, I know how to use Adobe Illustrator, is that just because you use it, you want to add your own touch. And so you slightly tweak that color. Ty, you'll remember this from a bank that we know, like no one liked the tree. So every designer that ever touched it kept on eating away at the tree and changing it. It's like, no, like there's got to be some, even if you don't like it, you have to have a decision. We're going to make some changes, but you can't randomly just throw a color in, throw a new font in, do any of that without having an overall plan. And most people, the reason I'm talking about this today is you're going to be aware of something that you didn't know before. And you're going to be watching things a little bit differently, but we don't even notice it's happening until we've trained our eye. Like when you say that, Hannah, like you don't realize that color, like why did that, it's the font. A and B, look at American Airlines, look at Geico. I mean, they don't, Southwest, they don't change their brand because they got bored. Like, it's so interesting to me how, especially in nonprofits, employees come and go. So the new marketing director is bored of your brand. They don't like it. And there's just change. And consumers like will not remember you unless there is consistency. So your board gets, you get a new board president, they're bored of your design, haha, no pun intended. And they all want to see thing change. So at what point does somebody stand up and say, I'm going to be the brand manager? I'm going to say that we are not consistent. Our elements are disconnected. When someone, you hand over your business card and it has your URL and they're going to your website, are they the same? Well, is the messaging the same? Is the look the same? Is there a crazy, we're doing a campaign right now for an accounting kind of firm. And we've started all these newspaper ads, and randomly the girls that are in accounting that are helping with the campaign and the client's Facebook page, they we did an email. So part of their campaign is an email blast. So they created a new logo with an app on their phone, took the app with the white square and stuck it on the they email blast and couldn't, like, their minds couldn't even see that that would be wrong at all. Like, it just went right over their heads that that is not a good idea. And so you're going to come in contact with a million people. The girls were just, I guess, thought the old logo looked bad and boring. So they just threw it in. And in their world, most of those people wouldn't have noticed because they're just not trained. So make sure they're not disconnected. Scattered communication. What are you all saying that is the same? And really, it's funny because I'm sure some of you may also do the marketing, but some of you may be working with a marketing person, but you really are the person out there saying it. So I would recommend that you work really hard on what is our messaging, what are our talking points, and we all say the same thing. And it goes back to have that meeting, talk about post-COVID. And when you have it, you have your talking points and you come and every single staff says the same thing. If a random, and it's somewhere in here, but if a random TV person wants to call you, Barbara, and say, I want to do a story, and anybody in your office should be able to do that story if you have trained them and scared them enough that they get your list and they only talk about this. I recommend you only have 2 or 3 people, because what usually happens is somebody who is new and they're interning, they answer the phone and they're like, oh yeah, can you do it? And then before you know it, the IT guy is doing your story and he's saying all the wrong things. We almost blew up at COVID. And, it's this, so you have your list and it changes all the time, like post-COVID, what's your messaging? All of that, what's your messaging? I did a ton of work for the Discovery Center years ago, and when we brought in new exhibits, they were fortunate. I was fortunate enough that they really did let me help with that messaging at the beginning. But for some random reason, I love doing the press release first. So I wrote the press release about the new exhibit. Everybody got it, and from that we built everything else. So all the staff could talk about it in these words, all of this, and then we could build the messaging for this. That was even before Facebook was really taking off, but all those things. So take your first thing and build your messaging, and it made sense to do the press release. I don't know if I was just crazy, but I like doing that. So is your brand relatable? And brand is your personality, is your story. Is it something that is so over the top and in such fancy words that nobody is seeing it or hearing it? Can people relate to what you're saying? What values do you share? Every time you have any communications, you're sharing something. And honestly, part of why I care so much about the details is because sometimes the things you share are not the things you say. It's the way you look. It's the way this letterhead looks like this and this looks like this. Dot your I's, cross your T's. If you're asking them for money, you better be crisp, like precision perfect in every single thing. Don't put out things, and I'm guilty of it too, but 5 people better read and reread and proofread your stuff. And don't talk like the new generation of, it makes me crazy, and I see this all the time, but we're doing things differently, like even in a text, which we're using so much. For the most part, use the old school writing so that you don't offend somebody. We're all getting used to no periods in a text or, at the end of a sentence or whatever it is, but just be aware that your audience may appreciate that. Just do it the way you think your audience is going to be and keep it crisp. Do you have a voice? Have you established a voice? Is your voice fun, playful? We pay attention to details. We are serious. We're, whatever it is. One of the greatest advertising things that I read recently was a comparison of Uber and Lyft. And how do you come in as Uber first, all sleek, black, cool, and you've got a Mercedes and your cars are clean? What was Lyft thinking coming in and thinking, they had a handle on the market. So if Lyft would have decided, okay, we're going to come in, we're going to be just as crisp, just as clean and sleek and fancy and sexy, they would have failed. So what did they do? They come in hot pink and they're casual and they're totally different. So you don't come in as a fundraiser, as a nonprofit, coming in trying to mimic your competitors, because in some ways we're all after the same money. So you're a nonprofit, you're doing things. Don't try to copy. If there's a if everybody tried to come in and do what the Area Foundation is doing, which is fantastic and wonderful, but if we're all trying to emulate them, we're going to miss out in the boat. So what's your voice? Who are you? Who do you appeal to? All of those things matter, and they're such a part of branding. If your audience is going to be a younger audience, if you're needing volunteers, you probably need to be talking in that younger. This is when you use your lift, hot pink look, and you go for it. You know, you're going to know when you're talking to your donors. Maybe you keep your playfulness, but maybe you can get some younger donors. Maybe you can get some donors who haven't given before. I mean, the talk we all have is, at what point in your stage of life do you begin giving? And does it always have to be this age? Or can we really grab somebody who is still having children at home before they start giving and being philanthropic? You know, if you do that, you're going to have to bring your messaging down, try to capture them and get their attention when they're raising kids. But you know, there's probably a way you can do it, but you're going to bring your messaging and your voice to a different audience, and you're going to talk to them in a different way. You want
Do
to
you
talk
stop using punctuation?
Yeah, no, I would say punctuation is always good.
Well, I mean, I say that in jest, but there is that
Right.
balance.
You know, and there's a lot of, the reason I said texting is there's a lot of new services out, and I recommend you look at them, where you can text potential donors, you can text volunteers, but you're doing it from email, and you're having that because texting is pretty effective. So if you're doing that right, that's why I meant texting. Just be careful, you know, make sure your capital, less about the period at the end of the sentence and more about the first of the sentence needs to be capped. You know, don't use a lot of little acronyms in your text to donors. Just you know, respect them. What that, even though that is typically how we would be texting in this, you know, the you instead of YOU, just don't do it. Even though it feels you know, it feels like it's a text. Those are the things that I'm really meaning. I kind of was joking about the period, but you can tell how old people are because
Thanks,
no,
Kim.
put a period at the end of the sentence in a text. I mean, I do it because it's like, you know, but I watch my kids and they're not even trained to do that. Another little tricky thing, and it drives me crazy, this is neither here nor there, but I don't like two spaces after a sentence. And so many of the older, you know, when you get trained with that space, isn't that fun? I don't know why. And there's not even rhyme or reason to that. Haley, you're gonna have to kind of toe me in line and like raise my hand. Raise your hand when I am like near my time limit. So you guys are like, you gotta go. So disconnected elements, I've talked about this already. I wanted to show you this because I think it's got a little bit, but Santa Fe Credit Union, they've got their colors. Sometimes they do their colors, sometimes they don't. But if you looked at their social media and you looked at their website, you wouldn't really have that cohesiveness of seeing what's happening. I forgot I could point here. Yeah, I can't, I'm pointing at my screen. The Zoom people can see. But you know, this is really different. So sometimes you want to keep it consistent. You want to make sure it's right. This bothers me. And now when I pointed out, and I'm sorry if anybody's watching Zoom, this is so scary because I'm hashing somebody that I don't know, but they stretched their logo here.
Yeah.
And so like, that's just like, all like, just don't do it. And this is what happens. Like, and I love interns, but if you are getting an intern to handle your social media, I gotta tell you right now, years ago, would you have an intern do a TV spot, run it, and you never see it? Like, what are people thinking? And it's like, would you have an intern write your radio spot, produce it, place it, and you never even saw it? And that is what we're doing when we hand an intern to social media, because none of us know how to use it. It's a young kid thing. So get the person who knows the least about anything and give them control. They told me in the interview they know how to do Photoshop. And I'm so sorry if I'm offending somebody online. Like, it's important. This is the primary way we communicate. And you have the person who knows the least about your business, who knows the least about anything doing it. So the reason I'm telling you with such passion is so that you can take it back. Like, I don't think that's okay. I mean, it's okay that they're, you know, sorry, Santa Fe. But you know, it's not right and it's not fair. And as an advertising agency, it bothers me to see that happen. And we have a high level, I mean, Monica's kind of heard some of this as being new, but that's a big deal. So how do you stand out? Are you cluttered versus simple? What is your value proposition? What do you offer? How are you going to help somebody who's done? What is uniquely yours? I'm jumping. I've already said a lot of this, so I'll go fast because you guys have heard all this. Colors are big. So if you're going into rebranding, think about your colors. You can Google this and find it, but you can also get it because Haley's going to give you the slide deck. So, what are the colors that you want to say? There's what they all mean. They all mean something great. There's not a wrong one that you can get. It's like Lyft and Uber, black and pink. It's really just a matter of who you want to be. But isn't it fun to look at all of those and see how they've chosen all of their different colors? So we have your organizational standards. This is what you would go back when you finally do your meeting and say, mission statement. There's really is no such thing. Once you have your purpose, your impact, your mission statement, whatever you want to call it, you can't repeat it too many times. Think of Geico. And I just want to encourage you, do not get bored with what you're doing and just randomly wake up and say, I want to make a change, unless like you really need a change. Like if something like right now, we kind of need a change. So we're not getting bored when we're saying we're going to do something different. Make sure it's consistent. Make sure every single person in your office is helping you build your brand, whether it's how they're talking, what they're saying, the key points you gave them, or that they look at things. So here's a few things. I'm going to click through and get them all up. Just in your material. Pro tip, design for skimmers. Like more and more people are not have you ever watched Brain Games? Anybody watch Brain Games? One of my favorite shows, and as an advertiser, I love it. But I think you guys would like that show because I think it's History Channel or something. But it's about how people communicate, how they respond. You guys really could use it because you're talking to people. But one of the shows was about memory and how our brains can take things. And it gave a 9-digit number just out flat, said, memorize this number, flashed it. But then they brought the screen back and put parentheses around 806 and 690 dash. It's there because when we put things in for the brain, we tell the brain, this is digestible. It's not too hard. So that's in there and you can memorize it better because it became not too hard. There was a way for you to make. So if you give them this big old crazy piece of paper, and it has like paragraph after paragraph and the paragraphs are this long, honest to God, your potential donor or your volunteer is going to look at that, eyes glaze over, and they will never read it. Like they won't. If you have long, long paragraphs, and I know this is back old school, new school, what's traditional, but you got to break up your paragraphs. If you're writing a post, if you're writing an email in places that you wouldn't typically have put a paragraph break it. Make it easy for people to look at and say, this is digestible. I can do this. I'll read through. Now, if you add a header that then becomes bold, and the header is not the first sentence of your paragraph. The header is what you want them to know. So if they take your piece and they never read any of the copy that you so painstakingly wrote, and it's so perfect and proofread 1,000 times, write it for the headers. So 5 headers, what are they? So you write your paragraphs first, you figure out your message, and every piece, your website, your social media, everything you do, you write it for your skimmers. Because unfortunately in our world, and especially now, we are so inundated with things. We are such surface level people. I mean, I am embarrassed to say that I am now listening to books because I'm having trouble sitting down with a book. I'm an avid reader. I love the smell of books. I love everything. But taking my brain and doing this into a book, like it is a struggle. And if I will get through the first paragraph, I'm home free. But I've got all these books sitting there. I've just bought 4 Winds and I want to read it so bad. And I'm like, is it good?
It's really good.
But I'm like, maybe I should just get the Bible. You know, I got it. But you have to, you know, we have to
Maybe audible
force
would be
our
better.
brains to go and do this. So write for the people that are struggling because we're not all dumbed down. Our brains really are just too focus level. My pro tip for you is stop multitasking and just take care of your brain. Do one thing at a time. I mean, I just really think that as humans are ruining our deep drive down critical thinking skills because we have things pow, 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 pow. So now we're having to design for those people that are just seeing things, information flash, 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 flash. What are they going to remember when everything is flashing? So write for skimmers. Here's this. We all talked about that pro tip. Gather feedback, brand integrity, good PR. Sometimes if you are doing a good PR campaign, you can, bypass a lot of that. So be thinking, consumers right now are looking for good stories. We are all just ready for anything good. And you don't realize that in this room, if we sat around and we just opened this up right now and said, tell me your favorite thing that happened from COVID, the stories would start to flow. So good PR, like why are you not putting those stories out to the news? Do you not think they're looking for something besides all the dumb stuff that's going on right now in the middle of election season and the dumb stuff that just went on during election season? Put the good stories out. Even if that is simple, Teresa, if that is like you guys were able to get into some schools for the first time, do a press release and get it out. Follow up. The media is ever changing, as we know. But pick up the phone and say, I've got a really cool story I think you'd like. And if they're having a news day and that news reporter is just rough and had it too, they're going to say, tell me about it. But follow up. So you've got really great stories that have come out of COVID. You've probably served in a different way. Tally your totals. I don't know enough of your nonprofits, so may have already done this, and I love it if you have. But what are your totals? Like, put it out. Make graphics that match. And don't stretch your logos. But make graphics and put them out and say, here's who's here we served. Here's what we did. If you did a virtual fundraiser, sing praises about it. Who went? How did you do it? So in every good branding, somebody is the branding manager. Who is it? Maybe you don't tell anybody you appointed yourself, you just be it. Maybe you go to your executive director and you say, can I be it? Or can somebody be it? But the hardest thing about my job that I hate is, well, darn if I didn't have to tell that client whose girls made the logo on an app. So sorry, I had to be the brand manager, be the terrible person. The girls probably don't like me today. But I did it, and I said, hey, if you guys want to do a new logo, we'll certainly talk about that and give you a price, but you already have newspaper out with that other logo, so not a good idea. And let's keep it consistent throughout the campaign and talk about it after the campaign. So I did it nicely, but it hurts to be the person that is like, excuse me, you just did that flyer, and where did that color come from? And those aren't our fonts. So somebody has to have the duty and somebody needs to be the protector. Who is the protector of our voice? Who is the protector of our work? And who is going to protect the details? And maybe that's you. I just think overall, I don't know how many of you have a separate marketing person versus fundraising, how many of you do it together. But the first thing I would recommend is that you go back and you have coffee, you figure out how you and marketing work together. And you've got to see this. Can you watch the Zoom? I don't know if you're recording it, but can you watch this? Can you see? Can we talk about this? Because if you can come in together and it doesn't feel like an us versus them. It's hard to be in marketing because everyone wants to blame you when things aren't doing well. It's hard to be in fundraising because people want to blame you when things aren't doing well. So you have that in common, use it for good, and come together and say, how can I help you with this? You two are the ones, but you really are the face so much of what is happening. So I'll be the protector. Too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the brand. And this is like one person has to be the brand Nazi, and you work together, figure out who that is. You have to be bold, unapologetic, and be prepared to miss a few people along the way. And like, this is the thing I was saying before, but it's so funny. And Hannah and Ty, I know you see this, like somebody is so excited because they know how to use that app on the phone that makes logos. And before you know it, they're like, woohoo, I got it. You know, so and one thing, like there's some good things. The Pic Collage, there's a bunch of different apps that are really cool. Pay the extra and just white label it and take their dumb logo watermark off the side. You know, people do that, just like little things like that. But consistency really will make your brand feel like it's more dependable. It's going to say something about you. If you're asking someone to give you $100,000 and you guys are just hairy, scary looking scattered, in my mind, it really does make a difference. Back to this, but like, I honestly, I can't say this because I'm not in the grant stuff, but I would have trouble giving to an organization that cannot do your, their, your, like, I would be like, I'm sorry, you guys are not going to manage my money well. Like, on to the next person. Like, that is how much the consistency and the details matter. Like, and so I'm just being so honest. Do you have a comment about that?
I was going to say, at another organization that I worked for, when I applied for the position, I could not get my envelope to go through my printer. So finally, I just gave up and I hand wrote it. And later on found out the executive director said, we almost tossed your resume because it was handwritten.
Wow.
Because you hand wrote the envelope. So it makes a difference.
It does make a difference. And we don't think about it. We're in the bigger scheme of things. And we don't realize that those tiny little details, and it is hard. I'm speaking from experience, but once, so we have a group of 8 people. And so just as one person's making a mistake, that didn't seem like it was very big, and another person made a mistake. Like once you make 1 or 2 mistakes, people can't look past that anymore. You could do a million things good. This is what is so crazy about us as humans. You could have 100 good things and 2 tiny mistakes, and they cannot see the 100 good things because those 2 tiny mistakes like got stuck to their eyeballs. I mean, I have had to plow through that, lose clients, and like grieve over the fact that 2 mistakes just erased the 100 amazing things that a team did. And so like, just don't, that's why it's so hard. And we will all make mistakes. It's probably how you handle them that will come. I mean, I have seen some of the best Twitters that will mock some of the mistakes they've made and done a really good job of just whoops, you know. So if your brand has that personality and you can do that, or if you did, that could be kind of funny. Logos, I'm just kind of back in. When you have a logo, somebody does a logo or you blah, blah, blah on a logo, they should be giving you logo files. And so I just use Panhandle Gives for an example here. But when we sent these over to the Area Foundation, we sent all of these logo files. So there's an AI, which is the original Illustrator, a JPEG, a PDF, a PNG, and I'll give you in a minute while they're important. So you need to look at, you know, don't add drop shadows. Don't let people add drop shadows. If you don't know what they are, they add the little, make it look like it's, you know, stuck. So just watch your beat, just watch. I'm hoping I get this in your head and you can know. But all these logo files make a difference. And then you have a black and white, you have color, you have a JPEG. They're all for different reasons. If you look right here, this correct file, a JPEG versus a PNG, this is really important for social. And I'm just going to, even though your fundraisers, I'm going to show you. First of all, this bothers me. Mismatch fonts, same social media, no consistency whatsoever. You have no clue who that is. Over here, this is all the same client, or same, they're not a client, but they have the logo way up in the corner, which drives me crazy. Leave space. The rule kind of is, just so you know, like it'll just look professional. Sorry if you're not designers, but leave some safe space. As big as that logo is, like the advanced, that safe space should be all the way around it all the time. Don't shove things up against your logo. If you're writing something, give that breathing room, give your parentheses and your apostrophe and all of that. Give the room around the logo. If you stick a JPEG on that, see the white box? That's what the client was doing with the new logo they made. Like, that's wrong. Put a PNG up there because it has a transparent background. Those are little things, but like, baby the logo, you can't really see it up there because it's up in the corner. You know, give it some space and do some things that make it look good. This is interesting because we talked about Southwest, and I'm going to point something out that only I would notice, but I'm going to tell you just so you know. I would venture to say that their design firm did this, but then some interns got a hold of it somewhere along the way because they don't have the consistency of the safe space, the size, you know, just little things like that. Just that, again, if you're going to be asking people for money and you're watching little details, keep an eye out for that and just ask somebody to change it. I can't figure out why this heart is tiny, you know, like there's just a lot that you see. So, but they did do things right. They have consistent colors, even though everything's different. They are using similar fonts. But when we pulled this because we were showing a good example of what is right. And then I'm like, well, dang, look at that. I'm giving them a good example of right. And they still have this one placed in a different area with more safe space. And then the ones that are bigger have less space. So I think that intern got a hold of those or a different designer. So that is a good example of what happens. And if that continues and different designers get it, what you just paid, this happens a lot, especially for nonprofits. You guys get a big budget, you come in, you get some RFPs, you hire Nobox, you're gonna get rebranded. And so 10 years go by, and when I look at the website and I look at, let's just say 4 years, okay, 10 is a long time. 4 years later, I look at the website, I'm like, holy cow, we're not using that for the slide. That's not what we designed. Like 4 years of just people and another person adding and changing and doing something. Like these things start, then the next person comes and they do something different and it keeps on going. So you really want that. Who's going to be your Nazi? Here's an example. These are our clients, so brag a little bit about them. But our team works really hard. So even though everything's very different, you really know who they're going to be. Things are in the right order. Things are the right. We try to keep it. It's hard too, because then I will tell our designer, Josh, I am tired of all those. People are going to get bored. Make something different. So I'm preaching to myself. So, but every once in a while, you could, if you had a really cool announcement, get a fun font, you know, that's real big and bold, but do not change the colors. Do not change the placement of the logo. If you're gonna mix it up, do it, but keep a consistency. Watch for that. Because really branding is about, will people recognize you? If they see your work, and they see anything where you are, will they recognize you? So those are, okay, it's time. All right. Font rules. Here's my only font rule. Watch your fonts. Does that look like Harley Davidson? Does that look like a good accounting firm you want? No. Watch your kerning. Kerning is where you put things in the middle of things. They all matter. It's really important. Another thing, this is all fun. All these little tiny things like what went on here, what went on in Heinz. Wasn't even watching. All those little things, but sometimes it doesn't turn out in your favor. And so you want to watch the space in between the letters. Color, own your color. If you switch to Amazon and eBay, do you see how that does? Photography is big. Just want to show you that if you have really good photography, what you do. And then I would just recommend you develop a style guide. And you add in all this. Kaylee's going to give you all of this. But who is your media contact? Put it all on the style guide. Who are your donors? Those are the constituents, that were your personas. Consider creating an editorial style guide, which is your blog content, your website copy, your public relation talking points. Like it's not in, you know, it's branding. Make 2 guides. Put it on Google Docs. Your email style guide template and your social media templates. Get them all up. We did one for Park Central. We made it very simple. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Here's the whole mood board, things that we would use. Here's the colors. We made a pattern for them. There's their logos. There's their colors. everybody gets it. So if somebody's doing a volunteer, if you're, and also all of you, if people give you their logos, do all of this, please. Like, it matters. Don't put a white space. Take the time to get the vector logo or the PNG. Like, if they gave you money and Google Docs works great. There's an example of how we just share with clients. We upload everything to Google Docs. It's free. It's especially free for you. I hope you all have the accounts where you're getting all the free electronics. But back to the donors. I see a ton of posters for events that have white all over the logos. Like, and the clients who are just giving you, like, they don't know this, but ask them, hey, can we get the PNG? Can we get the original file? They're giving you a JPEG because they don't know. But somewhere along the line, someone had a logo file and they did it right. Just spend the time with the donors to do the very same thing. If you ever needed help on that, holler. But there's a lot of times we will get logos from people and that's all they have. And our staff doesn't like it, but I make them retrace it. So I just say retrace
my
it.
question, because you inherit these logo files that are ancient. Just the file themselves, it's been reused a million times, it's been resized a million. Like, where do you go to get the different files
Like,
that you
just
need?
call us, and for a minimal amount of money, we will retrace it to get all the files and get them to you. And you should do that.
Yeah.
It's going to be like you need it. You can't
Right.
operate with a JPEG anymore. So can we have time for a couple questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions? You guys are all great. You can
Anybody
get
online?
And there is some like online that will convert a JPEG to a PNG.
But
that-
if you're starting with the old JPEG,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the PNG is then good
If
to
you're
go.
starting with the old JPEG, you should just really retrace it, redo it, and create all the files and then hold them in a good. And Google Docs is going to change things because it used to be we passed a computer down and we don't remember what computer it's on, and then the computer blew up.
Yeah.
And so now that you store it on, put all your style guide. Oh, look, you guys get my whole screen. But you put your style guide on and put it on Google, and then forever, and tell everyone. But share it a million times. If I got hit by a truck, I want everyone to know where my information is. So don't hide it. Share it and make sure everybody knows where it is. Thank you for having me today.
Well,
I
thank
hope
you.
I'm helpful. Deck, but I will help answer any of your questions. I love our nonprofits, and you just give me a call and I'll walk you through anything you might need.
Thank you.
Kim, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right,
See
well,
the United Way logo, we have white behind it because that is how our.
Yes, that's right. I just want everybody to know that we're gonna
Yeah.
Well, but if you put it on a
That's how it
white,
came down.
you'll have
That's
it
right.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
I just want
we appreciate Kim's input. It's all there's a lot of information and it changes. I started in communications and there were rules. And now they change every day. So some of us you have to drag us along, but it is very important. And I will say those style guides are saviors when you're working with volunteers or you're working with perhaps institutional presidents who don't like to go along with things, or that there are style guides there for a reason. You can't always make the president follow those, but nonetheless. So, and I'm not all current presidents aside, maybe I should qualify that. So that's right. So thank y'all very much. Again, our next meeting is on April the 15th at United Way. We hope that you will join us, and if you're unable to join us in person, we will provide the Zoom link as well. So thank you all very much. Have a great day. I'm sorry, Bailey, did you want to?